Hello everyone, it's been about a month since I've spoken to you all, and to make a long story short, I was pretty bored of RuneScape, both RuneScape 3 and Old School, and so it was time I tried some other games out. Not just MMOs, but games of all types. And I have some stuff to say about that. I was never a RuneScape only kind of guy, not gonna lie. The only time I played RuneScape and nothing else was from 2005 to 2008. And for the last 3 years, I've probably played more League of Legends than RuneScape. But since exploring these other games and worlds, I have learned of a problem. This problem extends to all games that are either MMOs of some kind or a game that isn't just a single-player title. This problem isn't the player's fault entirely, or the developer's fault entirely, but it is a problem. I've tried to think of ways to boil down this complex problem into the simplest statement I could come up with. The statement is this: games just don't seem to be as fun anymore. Shocking, isn't it? Such a radical concept that you might not be having fun on a game anymore. You might say to me that this is just a symptom of being on too many forums or Reddit threads, or watching too much Asmongold, as these are all places that spend a great deal of time criticizing games, especially MMOs. But there's definitely something going on. Recently, Final Fantasy XIV replaced World of Warcraft as the #1 MMO for active users. But this title isn't something that is as impressive as it used to be, because active player bases for all these games in the MMO genre have shrunk from the golden era of 2004 to 2012 or so. The rise of lobby games, mobile gaming, and older gamers just not having the time to engage in something like an MMO is probably a factor in this. But let's say you are someone that still would like to engage in MMOs and other online games, but when you play them, you just don't feel like you used to. They just aren't as fun. First, we can talk about what a lot of others have already talked about. The games themselves. I know some old school RuneScape players don't play anything but RuneScape, so you might be unaware of some of this, but it feels like pretty much any game that is not a single player experience has an in-game shop these days. These shops make most and sometimes all of the money for these games. The in-game shop in a video game is a pretty new concept. World of Warcraft sold a few mounts and pets from its shop as far back as 2010, but it was nothing like what shops in games have become now. There are 3 types of in-game shops, the first type being the one that only sell cosmetics. An example of this shop would be Path of Exile. Even though it's not an MMO, they have so many amazing looking cosmetic armor sets in that game, and none of them can be obtained from the actual playing of the game. You have to shell out at least $20, $30, $40, even $80 to look good while blowing up monsters. Another type of shop is the one that sells convenience, but still argues that it is not pay to win. This is a shop that might sell character boosts or experience boosts. Elder Scrolls Online has this in spades. It sells experience boost scrolls, food that provides you with buffs in the world, potions to restore your health, stamina, and magicka, and they even offer you the ability to buy increased mount speed, inventory space, and mount stamina, which allows your mount to sprint for longer. You can cheaply buy these in-game too, but guess what? You can only buy 1 upgrade per day. And mount speed, inventory space, and mount stamina can each be upgraded 60 times. It would take you 180 days of logging in and purchasing these items from the stable master to max out on one character. But you can skip that tediousness for just a few purple crown gems, or whatever they're called. This is a really good example of a game creating a problem and then offering you the solution through their in-game shop. Of course, Elder Scrolls has a lot of cosmetics in their shop too. The third type of shop just flat out sells your character power and is pay to win. I didn't try any game that had this type of shop, as the way I see it, what's the point? The other 2 types of in-game shops straddle that line where you could still see value in spending time in the game, but the last type of shop just breaks the entire game. And for that reason, they aren't all that common in MMOs and other games with semblances of decency. Those shops will mostly dominate mobile games, and I hope that's where they will stay, at least for now. Cash shops are so ubiquitous now that MMOs that have not even released have already established what they will offer in their own in-game shop. Amazon Studios' New World made its hilarious PR statement that they promise the shop will only offer cosmetics until 2022. Keep in mind the game is releasing in August, so they're promising you about 3 to 4 months of a cosmetic-only cash shop, and then all bets are off. I suppose you could also make the argument that RuneScape 3 has a pay-to-win shop, but there is no way for you to specifically target a skill that you wanted to train or an item that you wanted to receive, and you can only really purchase loot boxes that will mostly give you crappy rewards. Gambling with loot boxes in games is almost a whole other topic. Anyway, we know nobody really likes in-game shops, but they do get defended from time to time as a way for the company to keep delivering regular content updates. It's basically the girls gotta eat argument. Why can't a company just create a game and invest in the game by making it good without cash shops, and then making a killer advertising campaign which would encourage people to try it and then hopefully subscribe to that game? I mean, that's how they used to do it, right? The reason this isn't done by large studios anymore is that there is just too much money involved. Basically, it's our fault as players. We just loved gaming so much that rich people took interest. This created a double-edged sword for the world of gaming. You now have more games than ever, and they're all monetized, strictly by looking at data. Nobody measures player happiness or enjoyment. They just measure active players and earnings. This is why games like World of Warcraft are criticized a lot. The content for the game feels like it was designed by an algorithm with these mandatory progression systems that are focused on creating incentives for you to log into the game without considering how much fun it is to engage with those systems. Making a game that is good enough that it draws in players and keeps those players invested for years to come is probably seen as abstract and probably not even very quantifiable. Investors want low risk and a guarantee of a return on that investment. Cash shops turn a profit quickly while also allowing profits to be made without relying on any kind of long-term speculation. And because earnings are the language of investors, they probably think that a game with good earnings is a good game. Well, maybe it is for them, but they're just making money off of it. A game making a lot of money these days with how games are monetized is such a bad indicator of if the game is actually of a certain quality. Mobile games are a good example. Most of them are just designed to be as addicting as possible, and they are fully pay to win, with gambling and emotional manipulation as practically a feature of the game design, and they make tons of money. The old gaming industry was based on passion and creativity and was able to monetize itself due to creating great products. The new gaming industry is beholden to people who have never played the game they invested in, and with all this obsession with quick monetization, I can relate to the feeling that some of the magic of these games has been stolen. I could go on and on about that, but let's shift gears a bit to you, the player. The only part of all of this that you actually have some control over, despite many games' efforts. I started the video with the problem that I felt encapsulated how many people feel about games these days, that they just aren't as fun, that they just don't make them like they used to. And while game design based around data and predatory monetization definitely have changed gaming, it's not the only thing that has changed. The world has evolved a lot since many of us first started playing video games. The actual world as well as our own personal world. When I was younger, I was only allowed to play games a couple hours a day. There was no social media until I was in middle school, and there was no binging TV shows on streaming services or browsing YouTube for hours until I was in high school, and even then it wasn't what it has become now. In my spare time, I did things that I honestly don't do as much anymore. I read books, and there was something about reading a book that is very much the opposite of what you can get on the internet these days, and that is instant gratification. The internet supplies your brain with very quick dopamine. Whether it be browsing YouTube, Facebook, or playing a game, it's all about that dopamine. RuneScape players should know this very well, as gaining levels and getting drops gives you dopamine. That's why it feels so good. Reading a book, well, that's not quick dopamine. Reading a book in this crazy internet world is almost like engaging in a mental exercise. Could you focus long enough to even read a chapter? Your brain wants a quick hit of dopamine, but a 600-page book isn't going to give it to you in the first 5 minutes that you pick it up. Browsing YouTube and watching meme compilations, on the other hand. The point is that games might not be as funny anymore, not just because the games have changed, but because we have such a constant stream of dopamine through the online world that a game, especially a game that is often slower paced like an MMO, would feel boring compared to an immediately engaging game like League of Legends. Think about why League of Legends is one of the most played games in the world. You queue into a game and get that dopamine immediately. Even a game like RuneScape that is designed to give you dopamine through your character's progress can't keep up with something like League of Legends. And because of our inundation with social media and streaming services and fast-paced games like League of Legends, or any lobby game really, we have become very dopamine tolerant. Our brains would require immense amounts of it to give us the same high. And MMOs struggle to give that to us, so they feel less fun. If you are someone who has no idea what I am talking about, and when you log on to RuneScape or whatever game and enjoy it greatly, and have enjoyed it greatly for a long period of time, then honestly you're probably doing something right. Like I said at the start of the video, I haven't played a game consistently, meaning I haven't played it several days a week for a year or more, for a long time. And I personally wonder if all the YouTube scrolling and League of Legends has kind of spoiled other types of entertainment for me, including MMOs. So the solution for this would be simple. Don't watch YouTube, don't browse social media, and don't binge streaming services for a few weeks. And don't play lobby games, probably. I am no doctor, but I wonder if going on an extended break from those types of things would reset your brain enough to factory settings, so to speak. Doing this might recreate the environment I had when I was younger and could log on to RuneScape every day without ever feeling bored, even if I was mining iron ore. As always, the purpose of this wouldn't be to play more of a specific game. The purpose would be to give your brain a break and see if things that you might have had a hard time enjoying could be enjoyable again, not just related to RuneScape. The gaming world is definitely a bizarre one, and one that will probably overlap into science fiction sometime in the near future. I've listened to plenty of smart people talk about how humans will probably spend more and more time inside virtual worlds as time goes on. It's a ridiculously crazy world. And this is a weird video, I suppose, for me to make, of all people, but I wanted to make it anyway. I might explore the possible future for gaming on my second channel, or here, it depends. I do have a video that explores one facet of this possible future on my second channel, so check that out if you're interested. I know this video was kind of a rant at times, so sorry for that, but that's pretty much it. Anyways, have a good one, and goodbye.